I imagine that you've been hearing a lot about business models, but as a for-purpose organisation, where do you start and why would you bother? We wanted to share with you the business model canvas and what some of our clients are saying about why the business model canvas is actually helpful for them. We find that it all starts with impact and really thinking about the type of impact that you want to make out in the world. Starting with thinking about whether it's cultural, it's social, it's environmental, looking at recidivism potentially for young women. So that takes us through to the geographic reach. Are we actually looking at impact locally, more of a community development approach, or are we actually looking to take that regionally, remotely, throughout Australia or internationally? We're also thinking about the demographics, the type of audiences that we want to make that impact for. We find that if you actually clearly articulate this impact, then it's much easier for you to make decisions about where you place your energy and effort within your business model. Once the impact is clearly defined, we move to thinking about segments. In the not-for-profit space, we redefine segments as stakeholders. Stakeholder groups, we look at actually putting the beneficiary at the centre, and then we look at actually wrapping the other stakeholders around that beneficiary group. And those other stakeholders might include funders, might include government, might include corporates or volunteers. Then we actually look at the value propositions to those actual segments. And in terms of value propositions, we think about two questions really. What is the problem that you're solving for those segments or those stakeholders? And why would they choose to engage with your organisation over another organisation? So that's really the unique value proposition. Now it's important to actually articulate the value propositions for each stakeholder group so you can start to think about how you might best position your organisation to attract a range of different stakeholders that perhaps aren't part of your ecosystem or your organisation's reach. Once you've looked at value propositions, you're in a good place then to sit down and actually think about the programs or services that you offer. So for example, do you actually offer casework into schools? Once you've articulated the products, you move through to relationships and channels. We tend to start with relationships because relationships then help you frame up the best channels to reach those stakeholders. Relationships is really useful if it's evidence-based, and it comes down to what type of method or what type of way do these stakeholders want to be communicated through. So for example, are they happy to engage via an online medium, or actually do they want you to come and sit with them every year or every month to talk through your program? Being clear on the type of relationship is critically important then to underpin the channel and the way that you're actually going to deliver to market. The channel can be online, it could be that face-to-face mechanism that we've spoken about, or it could be a combination of both. Once you're clear about your value proposition, your stakeholders, relationships and channels, then we actually are able to think about the revenue. And in revenue, we start to think about the pricing models. Pricing models can be a challenge, and there's many different ways to actually structure your pricing models. So we do recommend that people spend time actually investigating different opportunities. So for example, would a membership model work best, or would some other model work best for the different stakeholder groups? Then we actually, once this side of the business model canvas is complete, then we actually move across to the left and we start to think about partners. So partnership is a key pillar within the not-for-profit space. And I think what we do is we encourage people to think back to the stakeholder groups and really think about, if you were to reframe some of these stakeholders as partners, what would that actually mean for your business model? So would it actually mean that you could deliver your programs and services and ultimately your impact in a more efficient and effective way if you were to bring them in as a partner? Now, when we talk about partner, we think about shared value and the articulation of shared value. If you can't clearly articulate what benefit or value that other organisation would get out of engaging in a partnership with you, then it's likely the partnership will fail because we find that that shared value is critical to long-term success. Once you're clear on your partnership, then we start to look at activities and resources. So what do you actually need to be good at? So for example, do you need to be good at casework? Do you need to be good at client-centred technology development? And then do you actually have those skills internally? Then we start to think about resources. So if these are the activities that we need to be good at and we need to deliver to the market, then what resources do we need to have in place? And that can be anything from a building to funds to a CRM system. So anything that you need that costs a reasonable amount of money, this is where we need to articulate that. Out of thinking about these different elements comes the cost structure for the business. Now, we find in talking to our clients that the benefit of the business model canvas comes once you have a first full draft of your as-is business model. And the reason for that is that at that point you can start to think about the what if. So what if we were able to double our corporate sponsorship? What if we were to lose 50% of our funding? What would actually happen to all of these pillars, and ultimately what would happen to our impact? So actually being able to apply scenarios to this business model canvas means that you can actually think ahead to the types of impacts that might be facing you in the market at the moment. It is a very challenging conditions out there, and being able to actually look ahead and think about how you might be able to reframe what you do in a more efficient and effective way through partnerships, through different scenarios, is ultimately going to help you to deliver your impact in the most efficient and effective way.